All right. So thank you, Robert, for doing this. We really appreciate you. And for those of you that have not met Robert before, he is our Kelly is he's usually our top agent in the company. And one thing I love about him is just watching him. He's very disciplined. He walks the walk. He really does it all that he's going to talk about. And if I could say I would, if I were to get back into real estate and start selling, I would do exactly what he tells me to do. Exactly. So I'm going to go ahead and let you go, Robert. So let just make sure you can say something so I know we can hear you.
And can you hear me all right?
Yes.
All right, cool. Well, thank you for that introduction, Jody, and always excited to share when you asked me to cover a topic. So today, Jody asked me to talk about prospecting. So I thought about this for a while because it's a topic that a lot of agents know we have to do, but almost desperately try to avoid, right? So I thought about a way to present this in a way that's real, that in a way that I've used over the years that hopefully you can relate to. So hopefully there's something here that you could take away and apply to your business. And what better day to do it when it's like 0 degrees outside and it's a great day to learn, right? Be in your nice warm space. Hopefully you're all indoors and we can learn. So before I get into it though, I wanted to ask, and Jody, can they type in the chat?
Yeah, everybody can type in the chat and you can unmute yourselves too. But you want them to type this in.
Yeah, yeah. So if
Okay.
I would like you to type in the chat some of your biggest challenges right now before we get into the prospecting thing. Throw them in there. Let's take a look. Because my guess is what one of your challenges is, at least one other person on this call is having the same challenge. So someone wrote inventory. Sure. That's definitely one. What else? Time management, people taking the call. Yep. Trying to get a lead, staying consistent. Good. Love it. Besides inventory, time to follow up, leads. Good. Besides inventory, almost all of these things that people are writing here, they're not new. These are not new problems. And for all of these things people are typing in, a lot of people are writing getting leads, by the way. For all of these things that people are typing in, there is literally no problem in your real estate business that prospecting can't solve. Prospecting is the answer to every single one of these. Low inventory, prospecting solves it for you. Maybe not the America's low inventory, but it can solve your business's low inventory problem, right? People picking up the call, prospecting will solve that too. Time management, absolutely. Trying to get a lead, staying consistent. Now, those are challenges, but with the right frame and the right approach, they're all very solvable. So I'm going to try to share my screen here. Let's see if this works.
We see it.
All right, good. Let me just switch this to present. And okay. All right. So when you do this right, this whole prospecting thing, the goal is to not only generate business, but to do it in a way that doesn't burn you out and grind you to the ground, which we know is a real problem in this business. You're either producing or you're producing so much that it's a grind, right? And it starts to burn you out. Um, so I think we all know that you have to prospect. So the question is, why don't most agents? What gets in the way, right? So I wrote down a few things here. You don't know who to call, or you know who to call, you don't know what to say, right? Or you know the first two, and you're just so afraid of getting rejection that you stop. Or you do the first three, but the results aren't coming fast enough. So you give up and you say it doesn't work, right? Not to mention when the results don't come fast enough, there's too many choices, right? Everyone's trying to sell you something on why their method of lead generation is better than prospecting itself, right? Or our ego gets in the way. We think we have some magic pill in our head that no one else has thought of for the past 100 years of real estate, and it's going to work, right? So these are the main things that stop us. So is prospect is prospecting comfortable for you? Think, and you don't have to answer this, just think about it in your head. Is this something that's comfortable? I think most people on this call would probably say it's not comfortable for all of these reasons, we just talked about. And to me, that's always been a sign that I need to do the very thing that I'm avoiding, right? If something is comfortable, that's a sign that I'm not growing and I'm not going to make progress in my business or in my life. So, if you know you're comfortable not prospecting and you know that prospecting has stood the test of time, right? This is not a new idea I'm sharing with you today. Then why aren't you doing it, right? So I think one of the big questions that I know I came to early in my career before I just decided if I want to do this whole prospecting thing was, is it worth it? Right. And now, whether it is or isn't for you, that's your own decision, right? That if it's not for you, that's fine, right? Don't prospect. I would probably say maybe you don't want to be in real estate though, if it's not for you. Because I don't know anyone that has a successful real estate business for any period of time, extended time, that doesn't prospect or who hasn't prospected in their parts of success, right? So here are some things that I wrote down on as someone who's done this 11 years and who doesn't have all the answers but has learned a lot. To me, there are three reasons why this is worthwhile. And I remind myself of this often because, prospecting is hard, whether you've done it for a day or 11 years, right? It's hard. Um, which is kind of cool because that keeps most of the people on the sidelines. So the people that are willing to do it, just the very fact you could stink. You could be the worst prospector ever. And believe me, I was in the beginning. Kelly will tell you, I sat next to her and her mom. I didn't know the scripts. I would literally read off a paper, right? I would just ask the questions off the paper. And I would get a listing appointment, not because I was good, but because I was willing to do it. And most people were not willing to do it, right? So these are some questions I ask myself to get through those uncomfortable days that still come, right? So the career of real estate literally has unlimited growth potential, right? Unless you are a doctor, I'm not even a doctor, unless you are an actor, a professional sports player, there are very few professions with the income potential of a realtor. Even doctors and lawyers. In fact, a lot of the lawyers get a little snarky with us at the closing table because our checks are bigger than theirs. They don't like that, right? So even these so-called great, respected professions in our country, they don't have the income potential we do, right? Money isn't everything. And in fact, there's been a lot of studies that once you hit a certain income level, it's almost irrelevant, right? It doesn't really change your lifestyle. Once you can have a certain type of lifestyle that you feel good about, a lot of people cap themselves off. So, and everybody's number is different. Maybe it's 150 for some, maybe it's 400 for others, maybe it's 1 million for others. I'm not judging the number. My point is, it can't just be about money. Because at some point, the money's not going to be a motivator for you. You're going to make enough where you enjoy your life and you don't necessarily need it at the same level. So it can't be the only driving factor. So what I would say is be careful to anybody that's doing this because you want to make a lot of money. You will, but it's not going to be enough. Money alone won't be enough. There's an old saying that money is the great magnifier. It doesn't change who you are. A lot of people say, I'll start doing this when I have money, or I'll become this when I have the money. That's not how it works. Money only magnifies who you are right now, right? So if you're a great person, you're going to be a great person with money. And if you're not kind now, that's only going to be at a bigger scale, right? So don't look at it as a way to solve your problems. Look at it as a way to find joy in the process, because without that, you won't stick around long enough to make the money. So that's the first benefit or the first thing to consider if you're deciding if this career is worth it. Second is I don't know any actually, because we could talk about athletes and athletes, movie stars, actors, right? Yes, they have great income potential. They do not have a lot of control over their schedule, right? The sports players, they are practicing nonstop. They have games at nighttime all over the country. They're flying. They don't get to see their families, right? Real estate gives you control of the schedule. No one's telling you how to spend your time right now. Everyone's working off your own schedule. No one's telling you how to set up your real estate day. There are certain activities you must do each day if you want to stay in business, but you get to pick what time of day to do them. You get to build your life around the work, right? That's insane to me and more valuable for me. It's more valuable than the money that this career can offer. The fact that if you want to bring your kids to school every day, you can. If you want to pick them up every day, you can. If you want to, go do a workout in the middle of the day, you can, right? If you have a hobby that you like doing, you can do that hobby, right? You just have to make sure you do the activities. And I'm not going to get in the schedule of activities because I know we've talked about that at past trainings. I really want to focus on prospecting today, but it's important to know that when you prospect correctly, it makes all these other things possible. It's the one catalyst that makes everything we're talking about possible. Without prospecting, none of this. You don't, people think they have control of their schedule, but then they're out of business very soon because they don't have any business, right? And they say real estate's hard, it's not what it's cracked up to be, et cetera, right? All that being said, you can have control of your schedule, you can have a lot of money. Without purpose, you're going to be unfulfilled at some point in your life, right? Having a purpose is something that every human wants at some level, right? It's more important than any of the things I've just talked about. And the purpose of this job, when you get down to it, helping someone with one of the biggest financial transactions of their life and helping them through it with care and knowledge and experience is a really meaningful, to me, it's really meaningful, right? And um, I would challenge you to find meaning in in some part of the job, not just the schedule and not just the money, because that's going to help everything go a little smoother too, right? That's going to help you on the tough times and the not so tough time and the great times. So all of these things, is it worth it? These are some things that I would say ask yourself. Don't say them now. Maybe after the call, take some time and think about it. Because you have to be really committed if you're going to do this, because it gets a lot harder. And I think it's important to know that, because if you think it's going to be easy, you're more likely to give up. But if you understand that you will get better, you will learn it. Yes, it is challenging, but it's also more rewarding. Has anybody, ever gone on a big hike or even shoveled your driveway after this past storm? I bet for those of you that snowblowed or shoveled, when you looked at your driveway in the beginning, you probably didn't want to start, right? You're probably overwhelmed. But heck, you got to do it, right? So you started one step at a time, one push at a time. And then when that driveway's done, didn't you have a sense of pride and a sense of good feeling when it was done? Because anything that's going to give you that feeling of pride and has to be hard. The easy stuff doesn't give you that fulfillment because it's easy. So I'm not going to get into the why today. We shared some, big picture, is it worth it ideas, but everyone has their own why. Everyone has their own reason they want to do this. Again, that's more some other topics I've covered. I want to get into prospecting and kind of get into the X's and O's of it. All right. So what does done right mean in terms of prospecting? Because there's a lot of ways to do it. And one of the biggest mistakes I see people make is they want to do it part-time. They want to prospect 1 day a week or 2 hours a week or 1 day every couple of weeks or even 2 days a week, right? They have small goals, right? You want to do 8, 12 deals a year. There's nothing wrong with that, but you don't need to prospect to do 8, 12 deals a year. You can accidentally do that, just by talking to your friends and family here or there, right? And you won't get good at prospecting doing it 1 day a week, which is why I say it's not enough. This is a skill like anything else, like catching a ball, shooting a basketball, going to the gym. If you want your muscles to become stronger, you have to do it consistently. And that's the same thing with your prospecting muscle. If you want to get better, you need reps, you need momentum. If you do it 1 day a week, it's not enough. Momentum is where the growth and skill comes, the consistency. And what I've seen is the people who aren't afraid to make big goals, goals that are big and scary, you almost feel silly telling people your goal from where you are at today. Those goals change habits because the goal is so big, it forces you to change your current behaviors. And because most people don't, I'm sure I'm not the first person that's told you to prospect, right? And some of you may, and others may not. So you're not just going to prospect because someone tells you to, right? You have to have something that's motivating enough to change the behavior, right? There's a great book called 10x is greater than 2x by Dan Sullivan. And that's the whole concept of the book. If you did 6 deals this year and you want to do 8 next year, you're not going to change anything in your day to day, right? You can say, I'm going to do 8 next year. I'm going to, do a couple more open houses or talk to a few more friends and family, maybe go to a few more parties, right? Maybe join a social club. You're not going to really move the needle. And then you may or may not do those things. But if you say, hey, I want to do 24 deals next year and I only did 6 this year, you got to change something. That's 4 times different. You can't go through your same daily habits today and get to 24. Um, you have to start making a plan. You have to start getting out of your comfort zone. So make a goal that's a little bit scary. Don't be afraid to shoot. I say this all the time. I don't think I've ever hit my goal. Maybe the first year I came the closest, right? But I'd rather miss at a big goal and still be way ahead of the game from last year than just pick the same goal every year and play safe and be below it. Right? Making the goal isn't about hitting it. It's about changing your habits and getting you started on in a more positive actions on a day to day so that you're better next year at this time than you are this time. Right? Don't look at it as a defeat if you don't hit your goal. This year is going to pass either way, right? So you get to choose. Are you next year at this time? Are you going to be in the same spot saying, "Man, I gotta figure out how to get my business going. I gotta figure out how to deal with this inventory problem. I gotta figure out how to get more leads. I gotta figure out my time management," right? All those problems everybody wrote, those are real, and they're still going to be there next year unless you take some action now. So what actually works? Um, you know, I wrote down 2 to 3 hours per day, but to reality, it's really 3 hours a day. Agents don't necessarily love that. Everybody's busy. 2 hours a day is really hard. You will see progress. And I'm talking 5 days a week. So I'm not talking every day. I'm a big believer in resting, recovering, um, taking time off for vacations. All that's super important. I'm not one of these 60-hour a week. Put in a good 40, but do it every week versus do 70 hours and be a hero one week and then do 5 the next week, right? That doesn't create growth. Give me a good 40. Give me a good 35 every week. I mean, 3 hours a day is 15 hours. If you prospected 3 hours a day and did nothing else, if all you did was prospect 3 hours a day and go on listing appointments, your business would be in a better place next year at this time than this year if you're not a prospector at all, right? The reality is this is our ego. I'm guilty. I'm guilty just like everybody else. Once you put the deal together, the deal's going to happen one way or the other. Like with all the marketing Century 21 does and all the tools and support we have, like you almost have to try to mess up a deal. Like once the deal's together, it's either going to happen or it's not, right? We're not some savior that's going to save it, right? So stop spending all your time. And the reason you do that is because it's your only deal because you don't prospect, right? Stop spending all your time worrying about if this deal is going to fall through or not because it's your only paycheck. That's defense. Start playing offense. Go create more paychecks. Go create more opportunities because it's inevitable. It's inevitable that deals are going to fall apart. I don't care how good you are. I hear agents say, "Well, I've never had a deal fall apart." You've not done enough deals then because they fall apart. We're talking about humans here, and humans get upset about things and change their mind and are emotional, right? So play offense. 2 hours a day minimum. I'd rather you do that than nothing, but I also want to be real. In my opinion, if you really want to get this going, from what I've seen from masterminding with top producers across the country, from interviewing top agents across the country, it's really 3 hours minimum
Hello.
if you want to see progress. Now, little tidbit or extra on that. Same time every day is better. Like if you can't, you can't because of your schedule. Just be careful. I hate to keep bringing up the gym, but like if you don't do it the same time every day, it's hard to stick with it, right? You have to create that habit muscle, right? If you're like, well, I'm gonna go to the gym at 5 a.m. on this day, 7 p.m. on this day, that's pain every time. You're just dragging yourself through it. And most times people can't stick with that. But if you go every day at 5 a.m. or p.m., that can become a habit. And the same thing with prospecting. One more thing with habits that a lot of people forget or overlook, it's not just doing the act, it's being present while you're doing the act. If you're prospecting and you're thinking about how many more hours do I have left, how much time, how many people, you're not present. You're thinking about other things. You're not allowing yourself to create the habit. Same thing with the gym. If you're at the gym and you're like, oh, I hate this workout. How much longer am I here? You're not creating the habit. You have to be present in what you're doing to create the habit. So habits will always beat the motivation, but make sure you're giving yourself a chance to create it by being consistent and present. Okay, so the distraction trap. Right now we know we're like, okay, now I'm going to prospect. I'm ready to do this. I know why. It's worth it. I know it's not going to be easy. One of the challenges is once we start prospecting and having a little bit of challenge that jumps in the way, we start to look at distractions or distractions look for us. We're always getting emailed, these great online lead campaigns or marketing strategies or other paid platforms, and they all say you don't have to prospect anymore. Just do this. The funny thing about this is the same people that are telling you don't have to prospect anymore, they're prospecting to you to get the business. They're calling you and telling you why you should use them, right? So if prospecting didn't really work, why are they still doing it? And the reality is, even if you do any of these paid things, I'm not saying you can't get deals in these things. Sure, agents, have done transactions here. not at high volume, and they're still talking to people. You still have to master the art of talking to people one way or the other and understand how you, I've, you know, I, I've, I've seen great um, people who are really comfortable talking and networking. They're like the life of the party. Share, I can talk. I'm so good at talking to people. I'm so comfortable, but I can't turn it into a transaction, right? They don't know how to ask the right questions at the right time. And then you have other people that are like, antisocial. They don't say anything, but they could just crush transactions, right? Because it's only a few questions and taking someone through a sequence that has a motivation that gets you to the sale. So you still need to learn that process of how to take someone from point A to point B, whether you're the best people person in the world or you're the biggest introvert in the world. The process is still the same. Without it, you can't help anyone. In real estate, you can help people in different ways. All right, so let's get down to some of the X's and O's. Who the first question, the first challenge is, who do I call? Okay, this is something I've spent a lot of time on. I would say this is as evidence-based as you can get. I've tracked my numbers the past 11 years. I know where deals have come from. I can tell you there is a clear ranking in where to spend your time finding business. Now, there's a lot of things that aren't on this list. And again, I'm not saying you can't get real estate business from these things, from other sources. But what I am saying, if you want to do it at volume or you want your effort to go in a place that's going to give you the biggest return on your investment, your time investment, we're not talking money, your time, because all of these are free, by the way. They just require time. I'm going to go through step by step the best way to spend your time as a real estate agent. Number one is your database. There's nothing fancy about this. I'm definitely not the first person that told you this, um, but you don't want to do it for a variety of reasons. You don't want people to think you're a salesperson, which you are. So you probably got to get over that if you want to sell real estate. You don't want people to think you're a salesperson. You don't want people to think you're begging for business. You don't want them to reject you, which is real. And
Um,
listen, this for me, this is one of the hardest ones. I spent the first year, maybe two of my, when I started prospecting, not calling my database. I was so afraid of all these things. It's normal. It's normal. Honestly, I still have trouble with it. It's not like this is just feels great all the time. Like I still get challenged by the same thing someone gets challenged by their first day. It's hard to call your database sometimes, but it's also about the way you frame it. First of all, they're going to listen to you more than any stranger is going to. Second, they're really going to keep you in mind if you connect with them. It can't just be once because we're all busy. We all got our life. You can't just call your database one time. Well, I called them 2 years ago. They didn't send me a single deal. They're busy. It's not that they don't like you or they're not, you know, it, everyone has a million things on their to-do list. If you want them to remember you're in real estate and you want them to remember to send you referrals, you have to remind them. Now, that doesn't just mean you call them and say, hey, I want to know if you have a referral for me, right? We have to do it in a way that provides value. And honestly, that's my frame. That's how I got past my reluctance to call my database, right? I say no matter what, I'm going to give them some information about real estate that's useful on every call. And I call them once a quarter, as you should as well. And I mail them once a quarter. And on that once a quarter, I'm trying to provide value. By the way, that's literally the only paid marketing I do is mailing to my database once a quarter. And it has to have value. So even if they don't know anyone thinking about buying or selling, I've shared some value with them. And you know what I found out as I went on with this? A lot of times I don't even have to ask them who they know because they'll ask me. So when you get on the call with someone, You let them know, hey, I wanted to give you a real estate update or a market update or a New Year's real estate update, a spring real estate update, a summer real estate. It could be different every time. Put a little twist based on the time of year. Do you have a minute? They're always going to tell you they have a minute. You're also letting them know that, hey, like I'm calling you on business here. This isn't like, hey, what'd you do this weekend? It's, hey, I want to share some information with you. That's okay. That's okay. You don't need to, feel embarrassed by offering value. And the way I thought about it is, if people called me and offered free value, I would appreciate that, you know? So if you offer them value, then a lot of times they'll just come out and ask you. They'll say, hey, well, what's new in real estate? And that's when you can say, well, the inventory is really low out there. Do you know anyone that's thinking about selling? There's a lot of buyers looking, right? A lot of times you won't even have to say it. But one way or the other, you do want to, after you provide value, you do want to ask them who they know. You want to say, hey, the interest rates are at their lowest point in 2 years. It's created a lot of extra buying power out there. Who do you know that might be thinking about selling with these lower rates, right? Now you've offered them value. You've triggered them to think about, hey, do I know anyone? Here's a big one. You're also letting them know you're not too busy. If you've been doing real estate long enough, one of your friends or family will have bought a house and be like, oh my God, we bought this house. And inside you're like, you're boiling inside because they didn't tell you, your face is getting all red. And they're like, oh, we would have called you, but we went to the open house. We knew you were so busy. We didn't want to bother you, right? That's your fault, right? That happened to me enough times where that was my motivation for the database calls. Because I said, you know what? It's not going to be my fault anymore. I'm going to at least give them some value and let them know, see who they know that's thinking about selling. And if you'll notice, I didn't say think about buying or selling or investing or renting, right? Thinking about selling one thing. When you prospect, there's only one thing you're looking for, a listing. Everybody has enough buyers. And if you don't, it's a blessing, you know, because they're going to take you all over the place and you're going to spend so much time on them. I'm not saying don't work with a buyer if they want to work with you and you have them in your pipeline, great. But what I'm saying, if you're going to put the energy into prospecting, do it to find the biggest return on your investment as a real estate agent and growing your business, which is taking a listing. Okay. So your database is going to by far give you the biggest return on investment of any of these prospecting sources. Now, when I ask agents how many people are in their database and they're new, they'll say, oh, I don't know, 40, 50. And I'll say, okay. And I'll say, how many Facebook friends do you have? And it'll be 3,000, 600, whatever it is. Like, so, go deep here. Like, this is anybody who knows who you are, should be your database. And it's your chance to start calling them quarterly. The first call, introduce yourself, remind them that you're in real estate if they don't know. Ask them if it's okay if you check in every once in a while, and then call them quarterly. And you'll start to train them, and they'll start to remember. It's okay if they don't pick up the phone. You can leave a voicemail to your database. That's the same thing. Share the value. Ask them to keep you in mind if they know anyone, right? The tricky thing with the database is you don't always get an immediate return on it. Like they're not like, oh, come list my house today when you make these calls, but they trickle back in. You're their person when they do know someone or they are ready, right? So there's no better than the database. No better than database. Second, new expireds that just came off, homes that just came off the market. Now, these are great because you could literally call them today, meet them today or tomorrow, and have it listed today or tomorrow. So it's immediate gratification, which is good. The challenge, it's also the most competitive. So your skills need to be the strongest here. Your mindset needs to be the strongest here. Because every agent in the world, this is not a secret, every agent in the world thinks they're going to call new expired at some point in time. Now, here's the good news. Many of them quit after 2 weeks because it's competitive and they don't want to work on their skills. They just say it doesn't work. This is another scam, right? So if you're willing to work on your skills and you're willing to be one of the few that has the skills, besides your database, there's no better answer than these. Especially even the past 5 years with the inventory being low, good agents are still listing expires. And at some point, that's going to change. That we're going to get back to a regular market and there's going to be a bunch of expired. So the agents whose skills are ready, that's going to be a big influx in their business. We know they want to sell. They were on the market yesterday. There's no way they will tell you we changed our mind. Okay. But keep asking questions. Go through your script. Don't just don't just give up because they say they don't want to sell anymore. Right? It's a lot to put your home on the market. You got to have photos, you got to have the house clean, you got to have strangers coming through. Nobody wants that. Are you kidding me? You don't want to sell anymore and you went through all that the past 6 months? Don't keep asking questions. Try to learn. Three, FISBO. Again, we know they want to sell, right? If a for sale by owner is on the market today and 20 inches of snow, they're probably pretty serious about selling. Don't let them tell you they're not. Um, Now, the thing with for sale by owners is they think we don't do anything, right? So don't buy into that. Ask questions, find their motivation, see how you can help. The rejection's super high with this stuff. Your database is friendly. They'll be nice to you. They'll talk. You'll have great conversations. You might not get any business right away, but they're nice calls. And now it starts getting ugly. Now people are mean and they're hanging up and they're saying mean stuff. But again, FISBO, high competition, high skill level. High skill level. If you're going to make these calls, commit to it. It's not going to be a one-day thing. It could be. It could be. But the odds are it's going to take some practice. Okay. Fourth best place, old expireds. A lot of this is a timing game. Some people are beat up and they're sick of the showings. They don't believe their home can sell. All the agents were calling earlier. They wouldn't talk to anybody. Now, an old expired, agents are still calling them, but not at the same velocity. So it's still a higher skill set. You still need a higher skill set because you have to get people through that initial, all these agents have been calling me the past 5 months. However, I will say they're more apt to at least converse with you because the intensity of the phone calls isn't like that first morning when they have 50 agents calling them that day and they want to, break something. And for all those same reasons, in my experience, when someone wants to sell a home, they might temporarily take a break, but all those reasons that they wanted to sell initially, they keep bubbling up. They don't just go away. So at some point, it's going to resurface, and you want to be able to build those relationships with the old expires. Now, these next three, still very relevant, but they still require skill, but less skill because less agents are calling them. So I'm going to put all these in a very similar category. Just listed, just sold, absentee owners for rent by owners, right? So if you're serious prospecting and you're serious about listing property, those first four got to be non-negotiable and you start your day there. Spend a good 2 hours on those first four. And then, if you're starting to here's the other thing. A lot of people don't pick up the phone on the new expireds. So you're calling for an hour and one or two people pick up. That's mentally taxing, right? That's hard. So you do that for a couple hours and you're a little burnt, you want to change it up. Your hit rate's a little less here, a lot less here in terms of people that will turn into listings, but these people will pick up the phone. You can talk to 12, 13, 14, 15 just listed, just sold in an hour very easily, right? So they're going to pick up the phone. You're going to have conversations. Now, less agents are making these calls. of the last three. Less eight. So the competition's low. So that means your skill set's lower, right? You don't have to be as sharp and as quick. You can just have a regular conversation. You can ask the questions. But a lot of times with those expireds and FISBOs, if you don't come back with your next question quick, you've lost them, right? You have to be faster. Where here, you can get away with being a little slower. It's a great place to learn and a great place to build your database. Even if they don't want to list today, you can put someone in your database that you now reach out to quarterly, and that will start to give you referrals as you become their resource. Um, One of my biggest sales was on a just listed, just sold call, which is another reason why I like these. You can target any neighborhood you want. Like the expireds and FISBOs, it's kind of like whatever pops up. But here you can target markets, areas of town that are selling fast or towns that are selling fast. You can target price points that are good that you want to work in, right? And that are moving fast. So you can really establish yourself, again, takes time in an area that you want to be part of. So based on that, you don't have to share it in the chat. Which one of these, besides your database, write it down on a sheet of paper or make a note somewhere. Which one of these besides your database do you think you'd like to start calling first? Because you all got to call your database. Like if you're not, you couldn't be in business the past 5 years at any level without a database relationship. So just assume everyone has to do that. You can kick and scream. And then what's the other one you would try? Because I would also encourage you to try one at a time and not try to do them all at once. That becomes overwhelming. And as you get comfortable with one, then you can start to add layers. So keep that for yourself. All right. Now remember on these calls, um, two things. One, analysis paralysis is a real thing, and your brain will try to trick you into why you can't call. Like, yes, there are certain times of day where people pick up the phone more. Absolutely. First thing in the morning, during lunchtime and evenings, most more people are home and available to talk. So yes, you get a higher pickup rate there. And yes, if you could pick your time and you have a free schedule to do anything you want, you pick those times. But like most of us have a lot of other things in our life that we have to work around. And picking your 3 hour time block at literally any time is better than not doing it and letting your analysis paralysis come through and saying, well, if I can't do it in the morning, it's not worth it. Or if I can't do it at night, it's not worth it, right? No, make the calls. You will find, especially this day and age, everyone has a phone with them. Like, and people pick up the phones at doing the craziest things. Like maybe I wouldn't pick up my phone in these situations, but people do, believe me. And you'll find more of that the more you do this thing. So don't think just like as an agent, don't think you know what your buyer should or shouldn't buy. That's your ego. Let them buy. If they love a house, even if you don't love it, as long as they know the X, Y's, and Z's of it, if they still love it, let them buy it. Don't talk them out of buying. Don't don't talk yourself out of prospecting because you think someone's gonna not pick up the phone, right? Do the work. And the universe, God, whatever you believe in, has a funny way of giving you back what you put out. Um, the other important thing on these calls is your ability to relate to people and show them that you're listening and that they're heard is way more powerful than being perfect or being the most scripted. I actually think I was the best prospector probably my first year because I wasn't very good at the scripts. I didn't always know what to say, but I could listen. I could relate. I could say, "Oh, you were really frustrated with all the people that came in and no one made an offer." or you were really frustrated that everybody said the driveway was too big and that's why your home wasn't worth it, right? Like, show people you hear them. Don't just be like, oh, okay, that's great. That's great. When do you want to be in Florida? Oh, great, great. What do you think stopped you from selling? Right? Show them you're there. Show them you're there. Which is hard, which is because we're busy. We got a million things on our mind. But being present on these calls, showing them you're listening, letting them talk, don't interrupt them. Let them go. This is hard too. Again, in the beginning, it was easy for me, right? Because I didn't have any business. I didn't have anything going on. So if somebody was talking, like, oh, this is great. This person's talking to me, right? I got someone live here. So I'll just let them go, right? And I, and then I'd ask them another question. They go on for another 10 minutes, right? And it was someone was talking. But they probably went with me because I was the only person that let them talk to me for 20, 30 minutes and then asked for the appointment, right? So, and then the magic is when you do learn the scripts and you can still show them that you're there and you're listening. That's a really special spot. And it's a hard one to stay in. It's a hard because as we get busier, we get distracted. But having an awareness of it and always working at it will make you a better prospector. Okay, having an objection system. So here's the great thing about this. Um, every lead source says the same things, right? Every for sale by owner says, I'm going to try it a couple weeks first. Every expired says, oh, we changed our mind. We're gonna hold off, right? Um, every just listed, just cold, sold call says, how did you get my number? Are you a robot? Right? They ask questions like, it's like everybody says the same thing. So just learn the answers. Just learn the answers and take it slow. You're not, I don't care how good you are, you're not going to be the best prospector in a day. Like the year will pass either way, like we talked about before. Choose where you want to be. Do nothing and be in the same spot, or start to make some of these changes. Pick one. When the expired says to me, I changed my mind, what are you going to say to get him back on track? And just practice that. You know what that's going to do? Now, when they say it, you're actually excited about it. And you're excited to test. You're excited to test what you've been practicing at home in real life to see if it works. And even if it doesn't work, it still feels good because you tested it, right? When the first sale by owner says we're going to try it a couple weeks on our own, if you say, okay, great, keep me in mind, I'm a great realtor, they're never going to call you back ever again, right? You might not ever get them on the phone again. So with an expired and with a FISBO, leave it all on the fence on that call. Leave it all on the playing field. That's your Super Bowl, right? You're either going to lose, and a loss is the call ended without an appointment, or you're going to set an appointment. I used to play the hang up game where when I had an expired or FISBO, I would just keep asking questions until I either set an appointment or they hung up on me, right? I wasn't gonna be the one to give up, to tap out, right? That's how you have to treat each call with that type of mindset because they're going to tell you, and a lot of it's just salesperson reflex resistance. Like salesperson, get them off the phone, salesperson, get them, like they're just trying to get you off the phone for the first 10, 15 seconds. And once you settle them in a little bit and ask them a few questions that get them thinking, now you've opened the door, right? So pick one at a time. Pick the thing that comes up most for you, and everybody's different. Your commission's too high, whatever it is, right? Pick that objection and start working on it. Let me see how we're doing on time here. Okay, good. A little bit more, a couple more slides. All right. So your only goal on the call is to set the appointment. Do not get sucked in. This is a tricky one. You'd be talking to someone for a few minutes, you made a little progress, and they'll say, what do you think my home's worth? You got me interested. What's my home worth? Right? Don't get sucked in. Set the appointment. Well, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, that requires a lot of research. I don't want to just throw a number out there. I take a lot of pride in that. Do you have any time available tomorrow or Friday at 2 so I can show that to you? do a little work on my end, right? Don't just say, oh, it's about 500. Like, avoid that at all costs, right? Don't get sucked into the commission. Well, my last agent was charging 4%, so I'm really looking for that in my new agent. Okay, good. Commission's important to you. We'll make sure we cover that. Are you around tomorrow at 2 for a meeting? Right? Don't say, well, I'm not going to do 4%. I'll tell you that right now. Like, you don't need to do that. You don't need to show them why, but you can't show them why over the phone. Like, these are big decisions. You need a human connection. Yes, you can, people do Zoom appointments. I'm not saying never do a Zoom appointment. Um, yes, I've done phone appointments, people out of the state, out of the country. You can't sign someone over the phone or Zoom. So if you can get there in person and don't get sucked into anything but you showing them how you can help, you showing them your value on why they should hire you to list their home. Now, I've had agents tell me, well, I usually just text them back and forth, and we don't even need to talk or Facebook Messenger or whatever. And again, I'm not saying you can't set a listing that way. I'm not saying you can't sell a listing that way. How many are slipping through the cracks if that's your only method, right? And everybody's busy. They're going to try to dismiss you. They're going to try to get you to tell them over the phone. They're going to try to get you to text or whatever. But if you let them win, if they don't like what they hear, the chances of you ever having that conversation again and talking through what their real goals are and objections are slim to none. If you don't set that appointment on the call, you're probably never going to talk to them again. Even if it's your database, you're going to talk to them again, but especially with your database. And here's the tricky thing about database. They don't want to hurt your feelings because they're your friend. So they're not going to be where, listen, you got to love those expireds and FISBO. They'll tell you to go F yourself, but they'll also tell you exactly why they don't want to use you. And that gives you a fighting chance. If you know why, you can talk through that. Your friends don't want to hurt your feelings. So they're going to pretend like, oh yeah, that sounds good. Let me think about it. And then, a week later or whatever, they listed with someone else. Ah, oh, my wife had a really good friend. I can't believe I didn't think of it before. Right? Yeah, your wife had a good, so get them in person, get them on the phone. Make sure you have a chance to get the signature when you present the information, because there's way too many directions someone can go this day and age with all the information out there. This is a numbers game at the highest level. You have to track your numbers to create a duplicatable business. If you're not tracking your numbers, you have no idea where you stand. It's only guessing. If you track your numbers for 6 months or so, you have metrics that you can really use to plan your business year to year. And that will give you confidence. That's the only place confidence comes in this business, because there's too many lulls. There's too many points where it gets hard and you're in a slump. That doesn't go away, by the way. That's real. You can talk to agents that have been doing this 30 years. They have slumps and they second guess themselves. I still, is this the right approach? Should I be doing something right? Now, the only way you can get confidence is your numbers, because your numbers tell you how many people you need to talk to get a listing. In the beginning, you might have to talk to 200, 250 people to get a listing when your skills aren't good. And then as your skills get better, you'll grow to 50, 60, 70 people, right? But either way, whatever that number is, if you know, hey, I got to talk to 200 people, and this isn't dials, I'm not talking rings, I'm talking conversations. If I have to talk to 200 people to get a listing, and I want to take a listing every week, and I prospect 5 days a week, I talk to 40 people a day. And now you've literally created a 48 deal a year business plan just like that, right? Because you're going to take 48 listings, you're going to sell 48 homes. That's just reality. You're either going to get a buyer off the listing, or you're going to sell the listing, or you're going to get the buyer and the seller. Either way, a listing equals a sale, right? It's controllable. It's leverage, right? So once you know how many contacts per listing. And the only way to know that's by tracking it. Then you can really plan your business and your life and do it with confidence. Now, I wasn't there, but one of my friends gave me a great analogy, an agent I mastermind with. She was listening to Ron Cronin speak, speaker for Mike Ferry, and he used this great analogy. He said, and I'm paraphrasing, so bear with me. Um, if you know you have to talk to 200 people to take a listing, and your average commission check is $6,000 a commission, which is probably low, but let's just say six, like what you take home, right? Um, then every time you make a contact, you're getting paid $30. 200 times 30 is 6,000, right? So if every time you made a contact, there was a little money machine here that spit out $30, would you make your 200 contacts in a week, right? 2 minute call, $30. 5 minute call, $30. 1 second call, that person swore at me, $30, right? If you if you had a money machine, you'd make those calls all day. But it's because you don't believe. You don't believe me, you don't believe whoever's telling you that this actually works. You have to believe, or all this is a big waste of time. And hopefully, if you're still on the call after all of this time, you're a believer. And I would say you are, because most people, if they don't like what they're hearing, would leave after the first few minutes. So congratulations to you for A, being on the call this long and starting the process. Whether you've already started it on your own or not, like, to be on the call this long trying to learn is a big step and tells me that you're probably one of the right people. Now, just like New Year's goals, you don't have to answer this, but how many people have stopped whatever New Year's goal they had in January, right? And this is a time of year where most people start second guessing. If you decide to start diving into this seriously after the first couple weeks, if you don't have success, which is normal, it's just part of the growth, there's one of two reasons, right? Even if it's 2, 3 months and you're not having success. One reason is you're simply not making the calls. Maybe you're doing it once or twice a week, but you're not sticking to your commitment of making the calls. The second reason, sometimes people make all the calls and they really struggle. You're not practicing the scripts. And I would even take it a step further. I would say you're not reading the scripts. Literally, remember what I said at the beginning of the call. I would read off the paper. No selling, no listing experience. I'd had my license for 4 or 5 years. I was a teacher. I'd done a couple buyer sales here and there, maybe one or two a year. Never listed property. And I just decided I wanted to do this and would read off the script. But I would read it word for word. I give a lot of people, Jody gives a lot of people scripts, and PJ gives a lot of people, Kelly gives a lot of people scripts. And they're not reading any of the questions, right? And you're like, oh, well, let's try that again. It's like, well, it says the here, right? Like, every word matters. Like, you're not creating your own script. You don't have to. And look at, like, this doesn't make you a robot or not you. These scripts are simply questions. If you go into any professional's office, they ask you questions. The questions tell you, the professional, the problem so that you can solve it. And you're going to be yourself to solve the problem. That's your own brain, your own mind. The questions give us information, right? So you have to learn the questions to ask so that you get the information to show people how you help, right? When you go to the doctor, they ask you a question. Heck, even when you call Eversource, they ask you 3 or 4 questions before you even get to the call. They're pre-qualifying, they're gathering information so they can make sure they can help you the best. As frustrating as it can be with Eversource, or as good as it feels with the doctor when you just want to get better, it's an important part of the process. And I promise you, it's an important part of the process to our business too. You need to learn the questions, the scripts. Stop fighting them. If you're not getting results, look at one or two of these. These are the two reasons. There's no other magic reason that it's not working. There's way too much evidence. It stood the test of time. All right, I already talked about making it predictable. Um, this is cool. So we're wrapping up here. Like the reject, just like the slumps and the hard days never go away, the rejection never goes away. One of the reasons that this is such a high paying job is because of the amount of rejection an individual has to take to be successful at this job. We get blamed. We're the blame when things go wrong. Um, you know, when someone doesn't want to be called, we get attacked there. And it's day in and day out. It can be very wearing. So I would definitely encourage you to have some type of mindset practice in place if you're going to do this. Um, but the point is, the doubt is normal. The doubt is normal when you're getting rejected and when you're feeling frustrated and wanting to give up. The confidence comes from your consistency, the tracking of your numbers so you can start to predict, right? And the system, like using a system that you know has stood the test of time by not just me, lots of agents. This prospecting thing works, right? And if you start to build that system into your business and start to put the consistency in place, that helps with the confidence to deal with the rejection. I wrote down this quote, so which I think is amazing. Doubting yourself is normal. Letting it stop you is a choice. Everyone doubts themselves, right? But it's your choice if those doubts are going to stop you. My daughters play basketball, and last year, they were at like a senior night. It was like a women's night because it's girls basketball at Conard. So the Conard girls basketball team, they each gave like this little ball and wrote something personal on the ball for all of the little fourth grade girls, like little fourth grade girl basketball players, right? So my daughter got this. This was written on the ball, you know. So that's a pretty powerful quote, for a sports player, a young girl, who's trying to who's scared, you know. So we're all scared, That's normal. Sorry. This is an emotional thing for me.
That is so beautiful.
So we're all scared. And it's not just kids, it's adults. Don't let the scared, stop you from doing something that can change your life. So wrapping up. I want everyone to do this now really quick. Don't put too much thought into this. First thing that comes to your mind, when will you make these calls? Really quick, write it down. Don't think, just whatever pops in first. So the days of the week you'll do it. What time of day are you going to make them? Really quick, first thing that pops in your head. And then who will you call? What source? First thing, don't put them all down unless you're really going to put them all. But that's a lot. If you're a seasoned prospector, put them all down. Go ahead. But if you're new, put your database in one other. Start there. Who will you call? I don't want you to think too much because when we think, we start talking ourselves out of this stuff. How will you track your numbers? I mean, when I literally would write it on a sheet of paper, right? It could be it, but you have to have some system for it, right? How will you track your number? And then who will hold you accountable? Who can you touch base with daily, nightly, weekly? Something. You have to have an accountability system. Like this is hard. You have to have some people helping. And then the last thing, don't make this one of these trainings. Don't make this one of these trainings that you go to, you think it's cool, you got some good ideas, and then you never touch it again. You just bury it in your desk or your computer and you never touch it again. Pick an hour sometime in the next week. Pick an hour, time block it. Shut off your phone, shut off your computer, shut off all electronics. Find a quiet space, review your notes, write out what changes you're committed to for the rest of the year in your business. Doesn't have to be everything. One or two changes that you learn today can really impact your business and life a year from now. Right. So give yourself the space to remove yourself from the fire, right? Because there's so many things going on each day. Give yourself the space to just think about this prospecting conversation training and think about what changes you'll make. Give yourself the time to dive in. That's all I got, Jody.
Amazing.
Robert, I just want to say, and everyone on the call, it's Kelly. What a way to start our Agent Master class calls with Robert. Thank you so much for your time. I just want to say you said so many important things, and I know your time is super valuable, as is everyone on this call. I just, Robert is one of the people, you hear his name because he's one of the top most successful agents here and across the country, but he walks the walk. He is not telling you anything that he doesn't do. And when I tell you he started from, and he tells you he started from just reading the words on the piece of paper, that's how he started. But he worked hard and he worked every day and he is the most disciplined. Ryan always says he's the most disciplined person he knows. But one of the most important things that Robert probably said on this call is it can't just be about the money. And if you were on this call the whole time and you saw him and you heard him and you felt him talk about his family, that is why he does this. Not to put words in your mouth, Robert, but he came to me and Ryan, after he was selling a couple houses and he said, I want to do this. And and he wanted to make a lot of money, but it was more about his schedule and being there for his young family. And he didn't want to miss any of that. And that is, it's really inspirational and it's got to be about more than the money. The money will come, but you've got, everyone on this call, I know you felt it. And Robert, thank you for being so
Yeah.
honest and open and letting it come out. So thank you
Yes,
for
of
everything.
course. Of course. Thank you for that, Kelly. And if people have questions too, because I know I covered a lot, I can stay on for questions too, if you guys need it.
Anyone have questions for Robert?
I just want to
They're all
say
making
that
calls. They're all making calls right now.
That's right.
the accountability piece, the whole team is here for that. So to me, I hold myself accountable via the leadership team, and I write down the people that I'm calling and what the results were. Like you need to have, I think accountability is probably one of the hard, it's one of the drivers for my personality anyway. So if anybody needs that, please reach out.
No questions. Robert, that was A plus for your presentation if they got no questions. So,
Thank you.
and
Thank you.
again, I know Zoom, it's hard to be on this long, but they all stayed. So great job. Thank you again for everyone's time. Robert and everyone on the call. He's available, whenever he's not prospecting or with his family to help you out. So thanks everyone. Thanks, Robert. Thanks, Jody.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Be good.
Thank
Have a
you.
great day.